Namo Tassat Bhagavato Arahato Samman Sambuddhassa.
The teacher said, "We are looking at pictures. We are looking at pictures. We are only looking at pictures. Everything you perceive is outside. You are inside. Understanding this, you are free from troubles."
The old things, greed, hatred, and delusion, they are there. But they are enriched today with some fantastic vehicles. Our worship of speed, our worship of mass media, our worship of the idea tomorrow is better, what we call progress.
Ancient or modern, the truth of our basic condition is timeless. These monks walk through modern traffic, but observe the human condition with the same practiced wisdom as taught by the Buddha 2,500 years ago. All things change, yet the predicament of finding ourselves alive in a time-bound body remains the same. We're here on earth just for a little while, but what is our destination? Have you ever wondered what it would be like to leave your busy life and just disappear into a monastery on a mountain in Asia or into a jungle and look only for the truth, only for yourself, for as long as it took, for as easy or hard as it was? Have you ever imagined what it would be like to seek peace? Evang me sutang, thus I have heard. So begins 1,000 times 1,000 teachings, 1,000 times 1,000 discourses. My name is John Preston, and although I live here on Cortes Island in Canada, I actually live in two distinct worlds. The outward world of place and time, my family, my work, my house, and the inward world of a more momentary observation, which is my other home, my more timeless home. I always felt that this inner home was there, like so many of us do. But for me, it was a journey to the East, and the guidance of the good friends I met there that opened that inner world. In a certain instance, in an empty room, in a monastery in Asia, I was thrown forward into a more true reality. A reality that lies beneath my ideas and my concepts, and a reality that has never completely left me since. This is the story of that journey and of the life I found there. More so, it is a glimpse at some of the friends and teachers who live in that world and who, wanting and asking nothing for themselves, help others discover their way, their own world within. I am here as a narrator, as a translator, as a meditator, who's experienced the beginning of some of these things. But I'm also here as a go-between, between you, the viewer, and these wonderful, private, profoundly serious friends and teachers. Yatta Bhutta Jnana Darshana, to see things as they really are. This is the fundamental sentence of all the Buddha's teachings, to see things as they truly are. That insight itself will have its result.
You see that in any kind of researcher. You look at, scientists, or philosophy professor, or musicians, or artists. Sometimes, they are so much absorbed in their creation or in their research, that they are living in another world, kind of. So same thing with the meditation. I mean, it's passionate, It's something really you can really dig really deep into the human mind.
When I first went to Asia, the monks didn't tell me anything. They put me in a room of my own, alone, told me to watch my breath, watch my body, watch my mind. 24 hours a day, 4 hours of sleep. No books, no television, no conversations, nothing. Just my experience and the observing of it.
It was into this womb of aloneness and quiet that the seeds of these Four Noble Truths appeared of their own, spontaneously.
So what does a meditator discover? They discover that all of reality is ruled by four profound but simple truths, the Four Noble Truths.
The first truth of which is that there is suffering or unsatisfactoriness. This means that when we observe phenomena, we find all of them are passing, and that anything that is passing cannot be truly satisfying. Birth, old age, and death dog our heels and our lives. The company of the unloved, parting from the loved. This too is suffering and unsatisfactory. And at the deepest level, the fact that we are in an existence which is unnecessary, that there is a peace beyond this existence that we are separated from, is also suffering. The second noble truth is the cause.
It's our thirst, our craving, our relentless wanting of sensation, of phenomena, of experience, which causes this unsatisfactoriness and is the seed from which it is born.
The third truth is that there is a peace. This unsatisfactoriness, this suffering can end.
Vakatu Bhagavata Dhamma.
There is something else. There is a true state. There is an end to this suffering. And the fourth truth is what the Dhamma Sakhacha, the conversations about the way, are all about. Because the fourth truth is that there is a way to perceive, a way to practice, a way to refine our minds, which leads us to this end of suffering, which leads us to the end of unsatisfactoriness, which leads us to peace. On my journey to Asia, I passed through Indonesia. Long before I meditated, I actually had my first very profound Buddhist experience. I'd gone alone, as I was traveling alone, to Borobudur in Java, in Indonesia. And I went up these many layers that go up till you finally end up at the stupa, the Dagaboda, at the top. And I kept going round and round and round, looking for the door to this stupa. And it hit me, and it actually hit me like an insight. It hit me all in a moment. There was nothing inside this structure. There was nothing inside anything at all. And in that instant, something about Buddhism just struck me and stayed with me. And stays with me now whenever I see one of these structures. There is nothing inside. There's just the surface, the appearance of things. So they put me in this room with no books, no phone, no television, no radio, no one to talk to, no conversations, nothing. They said 24 hours a day, observe your breath, observe your mind, observe everything your body's doing. Don't try and turn your thoughts off, just observe them. They will get quieter as you watch them. And notice everything.
Imagine a period of time in your life where nothing is about the outside. No conversations about work or projects or accomplishments, where we drop all external identity and we measure ourselves only by how we conduct our inner world, our world of awareness, how we handle our private mind and body, and how we handle them alone. Have you ever looked for your mind? Have you ever really examined how your mind and body work? We know more about our cars than we do about our minds. We know how the engine moves the transmission, moves the wheels, but we have no idea how our mind moves the leg, moves the foot. Learning how to meditate is like learning how to run an engine. How much air, how much fuel, how much spark? Is it hot enough, cool enough? A well-instructed meditator is not just waiting around. They are practicing running their inner engine. How much effort, how much calm, how much investigation, how much joy, mindfulness, concentration, and faith before the engine catches and bursts into life and reaches insight. The word Buddha means to be awake. Buddhism is the practice of awakening to things as they really are. By keeping our attention on our sensations within the body, by noticing our sitting posture and our breath coming and going, we build up deep attention, which eventually allows us to witness the entirety of our life, our body, feelings, and mind, and to learn their universal nature, which is to arise and pass away.
So the simplest meditation instructions are just to sit and know you are sitting, to breathe and know you are breathing, but to know it completely. To meditate is to break the veil of inattention. It is to welcome and accept every phenomena that occurs without judgment, but with clear comprehension.
The words nama, rupa, mind, and matter. Upon investigation, we find that the self that we thought we were is nowhere to be found. When we look, we find only the impersonal factors of the knowing mind and the object it knows. It knows the body, it knows the feelings, it knows the thoughts, but nowhere do we find the person that we thought was ourself.
We are looking at the world with flesh eyes, and we never see reality. We always see a mirage. We get false ideas, false views, and our desires are so much, they are never appeased. Craving, craving, craving. We are always craving for something better. Every day we are craving. And are we ever satisfied? Never. We never see our own minds working. How fast they work, we never watch. But at meditation, it is very interesting how thought waves come and go, come and go. All you have to do is to watch them come and go. And then you see the reality that all this confusion is because of your own mind. It is your mind you have to change. If you change your mind, you are a changed person. Death, I know I have to face death, and it is inevitable. And earlier, before meditation, I feared death. I could not think of it, especially when I went for an operation. I was very scared, thinking I will die, and then there will be, I wasn't sure what was going to happen to me. But if you are a meditator, you don't fear death. A trained mind always shows the way to the other world.
As we meditate, we discover that our sense of I, our sense of self, is insubstantial and always changing, like a shadow on a wall. We mistake the image for the thing, so we look deeper for it. The thought arises, what is really here? Who is really perceiving this? As you slow down at the beginning of a retreat, often there's a growing sense of calm and peacefulness. You're letting go of the outside world. You're finally doing it. The senses, looking outward, have time to take in the apparent beauty of the world. As you continue, the senses turn inward. You start to perceive the body in a new, less familiar way. Usually taken for granted, the body now feels foreign, like a huge object hanging from your mind. Paying close attention, things begin to slow down. The feeling in the body begins to get sensate, accentuated. We notice what we usually do not. With the passage of time, we find ourselves more on the receiving end of our senses, over which we no longer have control. This perception can be very unpleasant. To the meditative mind, such a simple thing as a walk down the well. I can remember those steps, the coolness as it touched my feet, the change in the sound of the monastery, the birds, the wind in the trees echoing between those walls. When we're meditating deeply, everything we perceive becomes a screen for our inner world. The difference between the inner and the outer fades. Our mind starts to project itself onto everything. Emotion, clingings, cravings, fears, all appear to us on top of everything. To the meditative mind, the struggle of life and death appears everywhere. For a human, or a bird, or an animal, or even a spirit, existence can be full of conflict and danger.
So one day I was walking past that cottage up above. It was 3 a.m, and Sivali was standing near a pillar, and I didn't see him. I was looking at the ground and mindfully walking in the dark, and his lips were so close to my ear as I went by, and he said in my ear at that moment, "Practice hard, work hard. It could be 1,000,000,000 lifetimes before you do this again." And it just went through me, how long the breadth of time is, and how impermanent we all are, and how brief this little flicker of opportunity is. And now I'm sitting in front of his ashes, this dear, dear man to me, and the ashes of his teacher who died just 2 days after his ashes, Sivali's ashes, returned here. And it's so moving. They were speaking to me at the time as if they were already gone in some sense, both from the real time they were speaking and from this time, because I hear their voice now. Practice hard. Time is passing. Practice hard. Time is passing. Everything is impermanent. Nothing stays the same.
As the Buddha said to Bahia, in the seen, just the seen. In the heard, just the heard. Can we just see our senses for what they are? Earth, air, water, fire. When we put our minds on these most basic physical truths, we begin to learn how we know anything. By knowing hardness or earth element in our foot, we're looking at something ultimate that our minds did not make up. We begin to undo some of the confusion that our world of ideas and concepts has trapped us in. I said to one of my teachers that I couldn't see my mind well. He suggested that I take a bowl of water, overfull to the brim, and I could get an idea of my mind. He humorously called this practice water torture. The idea came from a Buddhist story where a condemned criminal could save his life if he could walk through a crowded marketplace without spilling a drop from a full bowl of oil. Carefully walking with a bowl full of water allowed me to begin to watch some of the factors of my own mind. The teacher said, "If your mindfulness slips, you'll spill. If your concentration slips, you'll spill. Your mindfulness keeps you with the bowl. Your concentration holds it steady." The wise king who gave the criminal this sentence knew that if he could concentrate and be mindful to such a high degree, he would indeed become a new, innocent man. As simple a thing as reaching for a cup becomes mysterious, unexplored territory. The object seen, the cup, and the mind that sees it, the sense of touch, and the mind that knows it, no seer is found, no one touches. The teacher asks, was the cup handle hot or cold? Did we notice? Day and night, a teacher teaches his students about the mechanics of the mind. On a drawing board, he diagrams the relationships between the mind and its cravings. Like a football coach, he charts out the moves and the plays that the meditator must make to reach insight. The mystery of the state of mind called mindfulness is explored. He describes how mindfulness is not just attention, but is an aspect of the mind which knows when it is free. The word ni, he says, means like a flame going out. The word bana means like a dam. Nibbana means the going out of our defilements, our distortions. So we are dammed up with craving, and Nibbana is the breaking of this dam and the letting go of the free flow of water.
Some thought of Nirvana as a kind of another plane or a world.
What the Buddha is talking about is not some other world, but is something that can be reached in this present life. It should not be something to be attained in some distant future. The teacher says we have to recognize the unwholesomeness in us as well as the wholesome.
So it's not So if at some point
First, we must recognize these qualities. Then they can be removed.
කුසලයේ ඵලයක් අකුසලයේ ඵලයක් තියෙනවා දුගතිගාමී ප්‍රතිසන්දි වලට.
There is a fruit of unwholesomeness which causes us to be reborn in woeful states.
එතකොට දුගතිගාමී කුසලයේ විපාකයක්.
There is also the fruit of wholesomeness which causes us to be reborn in happy states.
being born in the
එතකොට කුසලයනොත්
Therefore, both wholesome and unwholesome lead to re-becoming.
පුනබ්භවය කියන්නේ
Rebirth is something that is happening now, not in future lives.
rebirth, like something
යම් වෙලාවක මගේ
If at some point this unwholesomeness is no longer in our mental stream, then re-becoming or rebirth in woeful states has been brought to an end.
සැකයි බියයි දෙකෙන් තොර
when the mind is free from fear and free from doubt, and not allowed to fall to lower states, that is the kind of mind that can search for Nibbana.
Free from
Venerable Pemasiri says that when he was taught to notice all his movements,
teachers, including daughters,
the lifting movement, reaching, the brushing of teeth, bending over, all this kind of thing, that this was attention, but not mindfulness. We were taught that to be aware of everything was sati, mindfulness,
because sati, it was not.
but it is only awareness. He was trained for 20 years with many teachers, but still this thing called sati was not clear, and he couldn't accept it.
Could not accept that is sati.
He realized attention helps mindfulness arise, but it is not mindfulness itself.
So now he is aware of.
It is mindfulness that turns the mind towards Nibbana, the unconditioned. Mindfulness is being aware that there is no aversion or craving or expectation in any action. It is this extra factor of awareness which is the cause of seeing the unconditioned. Sati, mindfulness, is this special factor of the mind which removes clinging and aversion.
So to describe Nirvana, in other words, is a great quietness, great calmness. There's no effort to pay the great happiness. It needs no effort. It itself is quite complete, quite perfect.
In Nibbana, there is no future. And what is future? Future is aspiration, future is hope, and we are creating future. And that future is just keeping us going. So you see the paticca samuppada, tanha, paccaya, upadana, you are clinging to, because of your desire, you are clinging to the present experiences, and because of that, there is bhava, there is a becoming. So that becoming is actually, just going on and going on in search of something better. So when you reach the Nibbana, where it is the ending up of tanha and the ending up of upadana and bhava, then it stops. That means the future, you just drop out of time and you have nowhere to go. And that's why when you look at the masters, and he speaks about here and now, and that what is important is the present, and then there is no hurry and no worry.
If you really feel a need for knowledge, for really deep knowledge into the mind, into the nature of the mind, then intensive practice is necessary, definitely necessary. And the teacher always says, what you learn in intensive retreat, you have to learn to be able to integrate that into your life. Otherwise, it's almost like useless knowledge, or actually the knowledge itself will bring you down. Defilements will get a hold of it, and it can make your life very hard, in fact. if you can't integrate it.
In life, if we don't have a goal, if we don't have an ideal, if we don't have a motivation or a kind of a fire that inhibits us, then it's useless. I mean, that's why sometimes people get depressed, because they are looking for material gain, fame or sensual pleasures, and this is what now society is offering us.
I really want freedom, definitely.
And what's freedom?
Mental freedom. Mental freedom from my from moha, from delusion, anger and jealousy. It makes to be free from this, the type of person you become, the things you can do, with your mind because it's free. How you can be with people and treat people, the kindness, the openness. Yes,
Sounds good.
It's invaluable.
As perfect and clean as a polished shell, so was the description of the monk's life. Ujagara himself has experienced the incredible joy and responsiveness that a society has to the people within it who do this deeper work. The monkhood is a machine. It is a set of conditions which incline the mind towards wisdom. There's great appreciation on the part of the society that some of its members are willing to do this. And so the society at large takes care of them, nurtures them, and honors them as their ambassadors, their representatives, and their explorers of truth.
The respect people are giving for somebody who is engaged, somebody who is devoted to a spiritual improvement is really great. So all the time, this is another encounter that we have with society. The monks is doing his own work, and then they share with the society, and just by the example of their purity of mind. So the people, when they see monks, they are so happy, they are so glad that it comes back to the monk. And somehow it's very inspiring for the monk, because he knows that the work he is doing is not a useless thing. Although it's difficult, the discipline brings you a state of mind where the joy is so great that it's surpassing all kinds of difficulties. All the things that are appearing, that are unconsciously habiting ourselves. So we have to face this kind of reality in the meditation. And actually, this is what is very difficult for beginners in meditation, is that they see that in their own self, sometimes it's quite ugly. So to be able to see and accept, this is how to develop tolerance. If we have self-hatred, if we hate all the bad things that are in us, we are not able to understand them because we push them aside and we don't want to look at it. So meditation is just openness of mind to allow everything to manifest itself and just let it go. Another difficulty is actually to look at ourselves, and this is also what is good is that when we understand ourselves, we understand others. But others, what does it mean? We understand beautiful people, we understand ugly people, we understand troubled people, all kinds of beings, all kinds of state of mind. We can understand it because we have faced our own difficulties. We have faced our own black spot and all the kinds of things that are usually we like to keep on the ground.
I remember going to one of my teachers, Venerable Dhamma Loka, and I talked to him and I said, Mara, which is the Buddhist word for the trickster or the devil, I said, why does Mara always know where I'm weak? I'm strong and competent in so many places, but he always seems to find where to catch me up. And Dhammaloka laughed, and he said in Sinhalese, Mama Maria, Maria Mama. The I is Mara. The I within you is Mara. Mara is you. Of course he knows how to trick you up. And then he said with great compassion, don't worry. Mara, ignorance, the dark, is only for a little while. Awakening, the Buddha, the light, is forever.
If I look back into my mind for the first time, what will I see?
And to see the mind is very difficult. Very difficult. So to see one's mind by oneself is not easy. So that case, samadhi is essential and necessary. So if you have no samadhi, I think it is impossible to see your mind.
If we are not mindful, if we don't have concentration mind, very difficult to see about vipassana. Concentration mind focus on the object. So deeply think about ear, inside ear, also have rupakalapa. Penetrate again, you can see that rising and passing again. So we penetrate again impermanent suffering, not say every part of body. So we cannot see in our body my hand, my leg. Only we can see the many rupakalapa, like a unit, like an atom, rising and passing all the time.
Reverend Dipankara is telling us about vipassana, insight into the nature of mind and matter. And that without concentration, this insight is very hard to attain. But with concentration, we can actually see the atomic particles, the kalapas, the root experiential level of matter and mind. That we can see existence right down to its atoms and molecules and see what it is, where it comes from, and what it is not.
Because we know one day we have to let go. Why we have to let go? We have sati, mindfulness, for the future. We already prepare. We already prepare me, trying to be prepared, knowing one day they cannot follow me, Any properties cannot follow me. My family cannot follow me. Only the karma can follow me.
To illustrate how tricky the meditative process can be, Venerable Pemasiri shared a story from his own meditation.
මං අවුරුදු මේ 4ක් රහත් වෙලා කියලා රැවටිලා හිටියා.
For 4 years he was under the delusion that he was an arahant.
Right. Here.
මං ආයේ රැවටිලා ඇරිච්ච තැන පෙන්නන්නම් කියන්නේ.
He thought he was let's look at, is it back there or this way?
නිකාන්තිය ආපු තැන.
We'll go this way now. But
Yeah.
What broke the illusion?
What broke? A good
Crocodile?
question.
Somebody bites you?
නෑ මේ පොල් ගොල්ලෙකට කියන්නේ වැලකට පොඩි වැලකට.
While he had been living in the forest called Arankeli for a number of years, there had been a long stretch of time when he had not seen any lust, hatred, or delusion in his mind. The thought occurred to Venerable Pemasiri, perhaps the work was done. And then one evening in the twilight, while stepping over a vine, the vine looked like a viper to him. And he experienced a moment of hesitation and fear, and knew, right then, that the work was not done. In fact, he spent the next 4 years retracing his steps in meditation to see where he had gone wrong and how to make it right. Such is the depth of the meditative journey.
It's what we call vipassana kilesa, no?
Yes.
These overestimation. And what a light has come into my life and all that. And it is because the gratification of feelings is not understood.
Yes.
There is a gratification of feeling when we can think without animosity towards ourselves, without animosity towards our surrounding. With the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, and then with equanimity, the fourth jhana. But as these things can be maintained in a seclusion in forest, we think they are stable, but they are not.
Yes.
So here it is the very tricky thing. What is the gratification of feeling? What is the danger and what is the escape? The danger is that these things are not stable. Only one. That is called parinama dukkhatam. They are problem by instability. And then, what is the escape? Not even for the finest of all feeling, namely the neutral feeling, the neither pleasant nor unpleasant, should one have a craving for. The perception of the manifold. So, to do musing, what is musing? That is a word, musing, from the Greek, which is mosaic and later the muse. It means small things we have to round up, not holding on the details. And now, you're listening, seeing that the senses make that noise, so we round up by not running after the details. And then we enter to that more concentrated state of mind.
Swakatu Bhagavata Dhammo Sanditiko Akali. The mind is like water, clear and calm when not agitated by the winds of wanting and aversion. This life is like a mirage, like a bubble upon water, fragile and fleeting, said the Buddha. Ujupatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Nayapatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho. Sometimes, when we look within, we see death. Anuttarang punyaketang lokasati.
My practice was very strong but very sharp, and every little sound of every bus or every person banging at the well would just sort of hit me right in the heart center. And Sivali was able to see that moment and how important it was in terms of raising my energy. And he came down to my room and he sat on my bed and he looked me in the eye and he said, "Haven't you had enough of this? Haven't you had enough of this suffering? Haven't you had enough of all of these senses banging on you? Haven't you had enough of this pain?" And it really shook me up. And then he jumped up and just left. And it pushed my own practice into a place within 24 hours. I had pushed through and everything was dramatically different. And it's as if he was still speaking from both this world and the next world, because here he is, he himself is ash, and his words are still with me, saying, "Do it now, do it now, do it now." And at that time, for once in my life, I did it now. I really did it with all my effort, completely.
Dhammata kusalena yang tang sang tang padang abhisamecha sako juja sujuja. We are all walking a path between light and dark, life and death. None among us are spared. None are sure of our destination. Wisdom is like a bridge that carries us over the flood of craving, fear, and ignorance to safety and peace. As the Buddha said, "O monks and nuns, if there were no eternal, peaceful, deathless state, I would not exhort and encourage you to find that state. But as there is an eternal, peaceful, deathless state, I do encourage you, I do exhort you, find that state." Annavasesa Dingawa ye mahantawa Majimarasa kankatula Titawa ye wa adita Ye chadure wa santya vidure Buddhawa sambhave siva Sambe satta Bhavantu sukhitata Naparoparang nikubeta natimanyeta Katachinang kanchi Vyarosana patigasanya Nanyamanyasa dukamicheye Matayata niyang putang Ayuse ekaputtamanurake Evampi sambhavute su manasang bhave Aparimanang